You had talked about how weak the banks are. Do you mind expanding on why that is?
Well, no, because they're highly leveraged. Okay, so I don't know if you know about this, guys, but so if people who are listening out there Googled fractional reserve lending, take my word for it. Okay, do your own research. Okay, but if you understand how banks work, for every dollar deposit you have on deposit, they can actually create money out of thin air. So legally, prior to September 2019, guys, legally any bank in the country can lend out their money for every dollar on deposit, or say they had $10,000 in deposit, the bank could create $90,000 out of thin air. This is, and said, don't believe me, do your own research, okay? But so that's what they've been essentially conformed to do. But if you look at during the financial crisis, and actually, it was Cameron, you said the Pirates of Manhattan, the two you had there, a copy there?
I do, yeah.
That book there. So I actually started looking at the actual reserve, how much banks were leveraged during 2008 crisis, and it all kind of started coming about. And I found that some banks, well, all the banks like Wells Fargo, Morgan Stanley, all these banks, and Goldman Sachs, they're all levered 30, 40 to 1. So I knew legally they could do 1 to 9, but they were actually doing 30, 40. And this is what caused the collapse of Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers, okay? So then some of the others got bailed out, and I'm not going to get into politics of that, but some banks got bailed out. Goldman and Morgan Stanley got bailed out. Allied Financial, which is the old GMAC mortgage, they all got bailed out because they were the lever to the heavens. So anyone who knows that leverage, it can be a good thing, but when you're highly leveraged, it makes anything very unstable. Does that make sense, guys?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, so we intuitively know that. So legally, banks can do this, 1 to 9 prior to 2019. They were doing a lot worse than that in 2008. I got the records from the Office of Comptroller General and all that stuff, so it's not making any of this stuff up. And actually, but since September of 2019, the banks can now lend unlimited amounts of money on the deposits, which is spooky. But I can send you the link to that. It's actually part of the Federal Reserve Comments, and it's effective, I think, March 15th of 2020. So there's no reserve requirements whatsoever.
If you could send that link, we would love to put that in the show notes, Barry.
Yeah, I'll be happy to.
Yeah, I'll read it and probably start crying, but I'd love to.
So the whole thing is that banks could create money out of thin air. There's no reserves required, and it's a club, and we're not in it. So it's just. But anyway, so I think people really need to know what's going on, because I think most people in this country are great people, but they really need to have something which is more stable, and has more integrity than what they're getting from their 401ks. And how did you figure this out, Anthony, and about the 401ks?
Oh, I tell you, I figured about the 401ks when I saw people trying to turn it into cash flow in retirement. And first of all, they're in a much higher tax bracket than they had anticipated. But then also the amount of income that they could safely take out was not sufficient to pay their bills. Yeah,
matter of fact, who was the guy who came with the 4% rule? Matter of fact, even it's in the next book. Anyhow, the guy who actually came with the 4% rule said this doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, but this has been the holy grail of all these giant mutual fund companies. He said it doesn't work, and so the reason why I'm doing this book, guys, is because what I've discovered is that these giant companies like IBM or Hewlett Packard or Bristol Myers Squibb or Rolls Royce or BMW or General Motors, they're all buying annuities from life insurance companies.
I like the direction that you're going, but I do have two kind of follow-up questions. For one, you'd mentioned the 4% rule, just in case our listeners aren't familiar, would you mind explaining what the 4% rule is?
Well, let's say we had a lump sum of money, guys, or $1 million or $500,000. It doesn't really matter. The assumption was that you could take out 4% of your principal or interest or in dividends, okay, and keep your money somewhat remain buoyant. and take out 4% over your life. So there was really, it's actually a pretty good intellectual argument that, you know, you could live off all the money and then pass it on to your heirs, which is, it sounds great for everybody.
Mhm.
But the thing is that when you have a loss like last year, was it 22%, 19%? I know, you know, the NASDAQ was off 35%. So the thing is, in these volatile times, and then with the manipulation of interest rates, this whole 4% is really kind of silly. It doesn't really, in very volatile times. So it's not very, very secure. Intellectually, it sounds great. Marketing, it sounds even better. If you're selling mutual funds and asset management fees, it sounds even better. But guess what? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So when you look at a pension retirement plan, which is really an income stream for life, you need something which is more. You need something which is more structurally sound. Okay, it's like you don't build a skyscraper without the best structural steel, and so like. But the same thing as a retirement plan or a financial future. So you see something you need something much stronger than what we're seeing today in the media. Okay, it's because a lot of this stuff just breaks. I mean, look at the facts of the matter are and I got this documented. Okay, the largest asset manager in the world, which is BlackRock. Okay, they had 10 trillion under management in the beginning of 2022. Now, and you know how much they lost in 2022?
How much?
1.7 trillion. So the whole thing is when you come to retirement plan, people really, when it comes to retirement plan, I don't know, so people want to have they want to have peace of mind. They want to have income streams so they can go see their kids, their grandkids, or whatever. And you know, purpose of retirement plan is really to produce retirement income. It's not to gamble and speculate. But this is why, you know, it pretty much works in America. And another thing which influenced me too. Do you know where America stands in the top 20 in terms of retirement plan preparedness for industrialized countries? And what do you think the U.S. stands in the top 20?
20.
I do know because I was doing some prep and I had heard the answer, but surprisingly, Cameron's wrong. But
yeah, we're 19. So the whole thing is.
Wait, you know, I don't mean, but let's just take that a second, right? America, the wealthiest country.
Yeah.
I mean, but still, we have a problem with retirement.
Oh, it's awful. We're horrible. I mean, we're next to Uruguay. I mean, you know. So I'm not making that. This is Mercer. The Mercer each year. Mercer actuaries out of Australia. Okay, they do it. They do. And one of the sad things in terms of financial integrity, guys, we were the worst in terms of financial integrity.
You want to see the entire episode? Click here. If you want to learn how investors use infinite banking to increase their returns and lower their taxes, click here. If you want to see if infinite banking is for you and you have some questions, hop on a discovery call with us and one of our coaches. The link for that will be in the description.